is First Coast News at 5.
Good evening. We're following breaking news. The House Ethics Committee has formed a group that could investigate Congresswoman Corrine Brown.
According to official documents, the Justice Department wants that group to deny all action on that investigation. The Ethics Committee wants to know if Brown may have committed fraudulent activities tied to a charity and campaign funds. First Coast News investigator Clark Foraker is standing by with the latest. He'll tell you all that in just a moment. But first, we begin with what's new in those deadly attacks in Brussels.
The world has to be united against terrorism.
I'm afraid it's not the last one. So there might be some more terrorists in this town, but yeah, we never know.
Look at them. They're going to school. They're not letting terrorism win.
Carry on. We're not going to be defeated. You have to live your life as normal.
And we can and we will defeat those who threaten the safety and security not only of our own people, but of people all around the world.
And right now, a massive manhunt is underway for one of the Brussels bombing suspects.
Now, police have also identified two of the suicide bombers in the attacks yesterday as brothers.
Steve Handelsman has been following the latest on the attacks that killed over 30 people.
Shannon and Jeannie, thanks. Good evening. This is a worrisome development. The decision to keep the airport here, the biggest in the nation of Belgium, Brussels Airport, closed into Friday, with police concerned that at least one, maybe more, of the ISIS team that attacked at the airport and down the block here at the train station are still unaccounted for. Police staged new raids in Brussels, trying to head off new attacks by surviving terrorists. Belgium's federal prosecutor admitting only one of the men in yesterday's surveillance shot is identified, Ibrahim El Bakraoui in the middle, killed in the airport suicide bombing. Police now say the man at the left may not be Ibrahim's brother, Khalid, who died in the metro attack. And they did not say who the man in white is or where he might be. Police did say they're questioning a fourth suspect. After the attacks that killed 34, including the bombers, and wounded over 270. Sources tell NBC News police found at the brothers' house, along with an ISIS flag and unexploded bombs, ammonium nitrate, the same easily made high explosive used by Timothy McVeigh in the Oklahoma City bombing in 1995. Last week, when police arrested Salah Abdeslam, the key suspect in the Paris attacks, he was at an apartment rented by one of yesterday's bombers. It's all one ISIS cell, and people in Belgium expect another attack.
I think terrorists can do it anywhere, but you can't stop them, but they can't stop us.
And Luigi Battito, who ran from the train station yesterday, then went back, he said, to render aid, is out again today.
The message is that we have to keep living, and I think we need to stand together and face this problem.
Hundreds in Brussels stood together today to honor the victims and defy the terrorists. While police work into the night here to try to find terrorists seen on the surveillance tapes and those still unseen. From Brussels, Steve Handelsman, First Coast News. NBC 12, ABC 25.
Because of all that, the U.S. State Department has issued a travel advisory throughout Europe.
And Brittany Dion today spoke to a local terrorism expert. She has what international travelers should do if they find themselves in the midst of a terror attack.
Well, that's right. Statistics show Americans traveling abroad are more likely to die in a car accident than in a terrorist attack. However, a terrorism expert I spoke with today says the threat is very real, and you should know what to do if you find yourself thousands of miles from home when terrorists attack.
In situations like that, it's chaos.
Several Americans are reportedly still missing after terrorist attacks in Brussels. Knowing what to do when your trip turns deadly could save your life.
You're looking for somebody who's in a position of authority to tell you where you need to go so that you can be interviewed, you can have a medical assessment, you can make contact with your loved ones.
University of North Florida criminology professor and former FBI agent Ellen Glasser says local authorities have procedures in place that kick in when attacks happen. The State Department suggests travelers watch the news to stay abreast on current events. Next, stay in touch with your family and have a plan on how to contact them in case of an emergency. Also, be prepared for additional security screenings and unexpected disruptions. Glasser says people are crucial in the fight against terrorism.
So you need to look at your environment in context, and if something sticks out, it doesn't look right, there are a lot of security people around that you can report that to.
But don't cancel your trip or head home just yet.
So Americans need to live their lives and not be intimidated, or else the terrorists win.
Now, the State Department also suggests travelers enroll in the Smart Traveler Enrollment Program, or STEP, to receive security messages and make it easier to locate you in case of an emergency. Details about STEP are on our website at firstcoastnews.com.
Brittany, thanks so much. We want to show you around the world the amazing support now for Brussels and the people of Belgium. Take a look here. This is from Luke. He says, look, the Eiffel Tower bathed in black, yellow, and red. Symbolic there, a good strong message. Thanks for Luke for sending that in, #Brussels. Also, we want to show from Dallas here, the Dallas skyline showing its love and support for Brussels tonight. #Pray for Brussels. Empire State Building, a little different take here. Empire Building went dark in solidarity with Brussels. That's the Empire State Building in New York. And one last one from Rome. The famous Trevi Fountain lights up in solidarity with #Brussels. You can count on First Coast News for coverage of the very latest from Brussels. And tonight, Lester Holt is on the ground in Belgium for the nightly news, and David Muir will bring you the latest on world news tonight. First Coast News has the top news sources on the First Coast. Now to the breaking news on Congresswoman Corrine Brown. The House Ethics Committee voting today to establish a group that could look into the Congresswoman.
Now, sort of complicating this, the Justice Department has asked that subcommittee to defer action. First Coast News investigator Clark Foraker is here. So exactly what does that mean?
Lots of nuance and definitely complicated. So let's start at the top. The Ethics Committee says they want to determine if Brown used a charitable organization to improperly solicit donations or use campaign funds for her personal purposes. Simply put, they want to see if she committed fraud. A lot of nuance, as we said. This is what we know right now. The House Ethics Committee voted for an investigative subcommittee to be formed. But then the Justice Department got involved, and they asked the Ethics Committee to tell their subcommittee to defer action on this investigation. The Ethics Committee won't comment on what they're going to do. You'll remember earlier this year, Congresswoman Brown was handed a subpoena from the U.S. attorneys, that's the Justice Department, and a woman who ran a charity connected to Brown actually pleaded guilty in federal court to fraud. The Ethics Committee will remain tight-lipped, and they're allowed to under House rules. Coming up at 5:30, it's not the first time the Ethics Committee has looked into Brown. I'll tell you all about that. Jeannie?
All right, Clark, thank you so much. Now we're following breaking news for you as well tonight. JSO is currently on the scene of an officer-involved accident. This is near the intersection of University Boulevard and Powers Avenue. We're told there are injuries. Right now, all eastbound lanes of University at Powers are closed. We have a crew on the way, and we'll give you more details just as soon as they're available.
Well, new tonight, investigators say a student at Bradford County High School was arrested after bringing a BB gun in his backpack. Bradford County deputies say they got a tip after a student got a picture of the gun's handle sticking out of the waistband of a classmate. The students told deputies he brought the weapon to school for protection. Deputies now are trying to determine whether the student will be held in custody. Prisoners in their own neighborhood.
It's how a group of people in one Clay County community describe a problem they say has lasted for a long time, decades in fact. First Coast News' Anthony Austin went to the Green Coast Springs neighborhood to see what people are all upset about.
Yeah, Jeannie and Shannon, it's all about this train behind me. They say it's not unusual for this train to block the only entrance they have in and out of their neighborhood on County Road 209. They say it's been an issue for more than 40 years, and it's only getting worse. So take a look at this sign they put up. It reads, "Prisoners of CSX, please help us." And it sits on both sides of the railroad tracks. After seeing this sign, I went and spoke with these so-called prisoners. Matt Hansknecht says this railroad crossing has been an issue for more than 40 years, and he says it's not unusual for a train to stop here and just sit for hours at a time, so they have no way in and no way out. He says many people have been late for doctor's appointments and even work.
We've had the train sit there for 2.5 hours, for 4.5 hours. In the past, they would break the train apart and let cars go through, but that's just not happening anymore.
So tonight at 6, what does CSX have to say about this issue? I just received their response and will tell you what they plan to do to fix the problem. That story coming up at 6. Back to you.
Thanks, Anthony. A First Coast News follow-up now. A man arrested last month in a deadly hit and run in North Jacksonville pleaded not guilty today. Police have charged Jerome Michael Brennan for leaving the scene after they say he ran a stop sign, hitting a car driven by 54-year-old Stephanie Best. She was killed in the crash. Brennan has been arrested 21 times before on charges including traffic offenses, drugs, theft, and parole violations. And in Union County, commissioners unanimously voted for a one-year moratorium on mining applications. The decision comes after residents expressed concerns about the future mine operations in their county. The next reading will happen at the county's meeting in April. Residents in Union and Bradford counties are banding together to try and stop the large phosphate mining project.
All right, on to the race for the White House, and former Republican presidential hopeful and former Florida Governor Jeb Bush is supporting Ted Cruz. In a written statement, Governor Bush called Cruz a consistent, principled conservative who has demonstrated the ability to appeal to voters and win primary contests.
This morning, Jeb Bush endorsed our campaign. That is an indication that Republicans are uniting behind our campaign, because nominating Donald Trump would be a disaster and it would elect Hillary Clinton.
So there was a little more to it than this. Governor Bush also took a swipe at Donald Trump in his endorsement. He said, this is a quote, "We must move to overcome the divisiveness and vulgarity Donald Trump has brought into the political arena," end of quote. On to the Western primaries yesterday, Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton were victorious in the winner-take-all state of Arizona. Meanwhile, Senator Cruz and Senator Bernie Sanders won Utah. Sanders also took Idaho.
What's still ahead? Gone fishing with the mayor. How about that? Coming up, find out what Mayor Lenny Curry says is the key to landing the big catch. And it's a car collection that will amaze you. When the owner passed and left it to his church, find out how much it might just be worth.
And showers and thunderstorms on the warm side of the blizzard are now heading eastward. We'll see what that means for us in just a few minutes.